Okay. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order, please, the third meeting of the Resident Financial Advisory Committee. Silvana, welcome. Good to see you. Glad you're feeling better. Does anyone know about John? Did he mention whether it's running late or, he doesn't normally miss these things, but
He's having a swimming pool put in.
yeah, oh, is he? Okay.
I'm sure he's not using that.
No. We do have a quorum, so we're,
Got a lot of water in this.
go ahead and move ahead.
How many people do you need to have forms? So
We
that
need
you-
to have four,
Okay, good.
4 of 6, so we have 5, so we're good to go. Rebecca, would you please call our roll call?
Sure. Ronald L. Ziganek?
Ziganek, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
John S. Hanson? John J. Hayes?
Present?
Rebecca Hollis? Present. Silvana Aru?
I hear.
And Rick Shaw?
And present. All right. Okay. All right, we have an agenda, and hopefully everyone had a chance to look at that. And if it's acceptable, if we could have a motion to approve the agenda, and we can move on.
So moved.
Motion to
Do we have
approve?
a second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? No? Okay, motion passes. All right, the second item there was the approval of the January 13th, 2020 meeting minutes. The first time I've seen these is today. They were here when I came in, and I want to thank and commend Rebecca for taking, we were all over the place
Very copious.
on that first meeting. And, I don't know how she captured all this, but thank you. And I know not everyone, have you seen them, John? Did
Is
you have a
it,
chance
are
to
you
see
saying
this?
first meeting or second
This is
meeting?
the second meeting.
Second, which I don't think we've
January
got.
No, I haven't
We only
seen
got the minutes.
Yeah,
No.
they were attached to Patty's
Oh.
calendar invite yesterday.
Oh, let me have it, I have it here.
So
Here,
you
I
gotta
have
look
it.
at the calendar invite and the attachment, that's what they were.
Okay,
So I reviewed, I'll motion approval.
Yeah,
okay, all right,
I'll second it.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay, motion passes 5-0.
She only attached the spreadsheet.
What?
Patty, yesterday, she only attached the spreadsheet. I'm looking at it now.
Well, I clicked on it, it opened up.
Yes, January 13th meetings? You might want to look again.
No. Today's meeting.
No, but he's talking about the minutes from January 13th.
Right, from our last meeting, last week.
We got the minutes from the December meeting, but I don't think we got them from the 13th. Mhm.
Because this is the first I saw when you said, yeah, you'd all seen them, I was like, okay. She,
So it was 9 pages.
What's the date?
It's,
Is that the blank template? for-
January 13th.
Oh. That's it, because my
So
blue
it's
weeks and,
it's the
yeah.
agenda, it's today's agenda with all the minutes.
and everything is there? Okay.
You don't see who she sent that to.
She-
You said January 13th?
Is that-
January 13th, right.
Yeah,
Is that-
but
is that
look,
the
but the-
attendees? Are you
here
not-
it is. It's December 10th. It didn't open up because it says December 10th.
The email came yesterday. There was an email yesterday.
Oh, I never got it yesterday.
Okay.
I should look at it. Yeah, I never got this. Did you get this?
No, not until I
That's
came here
interesting.
early and I read
How
it,
come-
so.
Okay. So
That's
she
all
might,
right.
you might just want to get with her to verify everyone's email.
Everyone got it, okay.
Yeah.
All right, although
If you didn't get a
most of
calendar
it-
invite yesterday.
Yeah, they were in the agenda packet. They were, that was.
I never got the agenda packet.
You didn't?
No, and I don't think you got it either. And I got my
She
email.
was
saying,
a
"Why
little
don't you
surprised
run
to
on?"
see this, but,
She just looked, so.
That's so odd.
okay.
It's on the website.
Well, although the motion passed, I don't think we need to go
Yeah,
back
no
and
problem.
revisit that. But I would suggest that after we finish what we're gonna do today, everyone go back and take a look at this because we were somewhat all over the place and Rebecca did a good job of putting it in a sense of order and making it something that is, I think, really, really valuable and be a large part of what we discussed today in the meetings to follow. Okay. So, just before we start with a roundtable discussion of possible items for either increasing revenue, decreasing expenses, I just want to let you know, I'm working on a document based on everything we discussed last time, and I'm using the charter that was given to us with the specific items that we're supposed to take a look at. And I'm putting it in order that at least makes sense to me, and then I'm trying to fill in with bullets in a PowerPoint type manner all of the various points that we're talking about. And I'd like to have that for you by the next meeting. And if everyone's okay with it, I think it would make a good working document to keep us on track. And as we come up with ideas and not sure where they go, we can kind of, well, let's put it in this part of it. And as we work through that, I think we'll end up in a rather timely manner with a document that we can use to brief the city manager and the city council. Does it sound like a reasonable way to go? Because based on what we did last time, there's a lot of ground that we're covering here. Okay. So without further ado, let's take a look at item number 3, review of possible ways to increase city revenue. And I said, if at all possible, if everyone could look at a few ideas, that would be helpful.
Rick, may I ask a couple questions of the city manager?
You bet.
And just, I'm still feeling my way around this budget, okay? And when I look at the budget for the coming year, and I see a total, well, there's a total taxes, and that's what I'm focused on, Lynn, of $1,127,000, which is really made up of $1,104,000 of, I think what are called the ad valorem taxes, and then the local option gas tax. What is local option gas tax?
They have a gas tax on the gas you buy, so we get a portion of
From the state?
the state.
Okay. But the ad valorem, correct me if I'm wrong, if I look at the 2018 gross taxable value in the book that I have here, it was 541 million rounded, times our millage rate, that gives me the 1,104,000. But that's a 2018 number.
Yeah. So
And
you
so am I correct if I say that taxes, the ad valorem taxes that will come in as actual revenue should be higher if assessed values are higher?
It went
as
up
certified?
It went up $46,000, the taxes from previous year to this year. Yeah, 40, maybe 45, but it was in that range.
That's all?
Yeah. See, I think people have a misnomer about taxes. You think you pay a lot of taxes to the city. Well, you don't. You pay about 12% of your tax bill goes to the city. So if people,
Yeah.
you know, it may be like 12.3% or something like that, but
Yeah.
a lot of people will say, come in and say, oh, I pay all these taxes to the city. Well, no, you don't. We get
No, I understand.
minuscule portion
Yeah.
of that money.
Right. But Lynn, the 1,104,000 is the final budget column,
Right.
and that's what would have been approved by the council, right?
That's the estimated. It could come in higher. Those are just estimates from the county.
Well, if I just take the 2019 gross taxable value, which in here says was certified by the property appraiser,
It's
that's going to give,
566.
is 566 million. That would equate at our 2.0394 millage rate.
Right.
That would give us $1,155,000. So
There's
that's,
a 4% reduction,
oh,
because if you pay your taxes early, that's how they calculate that.
okay.
Yeah, you have to, we don't count on getting, because in this city anyway, a good majority of the people pay their taxes up front because they get 4% discount. It goes to 3 and 1, and
Okay, well, I learned something.
yeah, there's a 4% discount if you pay them before November 30th.
Okay, so 1,104,000 should be the bottom. We may
Right.
creep up a little bit.
Little. It depends how people pay their taxes.
Yep, I got it. And then, not to totally dominate here, but I just did a little math that if we used, I think I used the 541 million, which is how we got to the 1,104,000 in the budget. If we just went to if you increased your ad valorem taxes to 2.05, you'd raise another $6,000 from what was budgeted. But if you actually went to 2.10, you'd raise $33,000. And while I'm not advocating that, it's just doing simple math on where the assessed values are today and how much you can increase revenue by raising taxes.
Oh,
And
yeah, you could technically, but that would take a supermajority of the city council
Yep.
to vote that. You could raise
super-
taxes to the point that you could cover the 400,000
Lots of things.
deficit. Or
Like that.
Yeah, if the council did that. But that takes a supermajority. You can't do it with 4-3 or anything like that.
Okay.
Well, and that was very helpful what Vice Mayor Gunn sent to see where we are relative to the other cities. I mean, our rate is very low. In my estimation, looking at what the other cities.
Comparatively.
Millage rate is.
I mean,
Okay.
you know, you look at the city of Bel Air, it's 5 mils.
Oh, yeah. It's high.
Yeah.
You know. But.
And you mentioned the number, because I think in everything that I have thought about in going through this, I'm using, you know, that popular term of the burn rate of, I'm using $300,000 to $350,000 is kind of what the goal is, to increase, do a combination of increasing revenue or reducing expenses. Because if what I have read, if I understand it correctly, we're pretty solvent with the exception of the layout of all the capital improvements that we're addressing. So.
Yeah, no, we're, you know, operationally,
Pretty good. Well, very good. Yeah, yeah.
there's not a whole lot that you're gonna be able to take
Sure.
out.
No.
I mean, it's,
All right, well, let me, John. you-
No, I do. I
I'm
just
gonna
a couple
throw it out.
more.
Yeah, sure.
Here comes John.
Yeah.
But franchise fees, those come from
utilities. they pay-
hookups?
No, they pay on your
They?
electric bill.
Oh.
Duke, they pay you pay an extra, and they.
And Duke sends it to you. Okay.
20.
Yeah.
I've been up since 5:30.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah, we get franchise fees for
Yep.
electric and gas.
And utility service taxes, is that also coming from Duke?
Well, it's coming from Duke, gas,
Yeah.
technically.
Okay. And how do you even budget for that? How do you know, just based on the prior year?
It's pretty static unless they raise now.
Mm-hmm.
In a, I guess, if you went to a recession, those numbers would drop.
Has there been any talk or discussion, or is it meaningful, you know, to cut the cord? Have you seen any changes in the last 2 years?
Not
On the cable side?
dramatically.
Electric's gonna be fine. it's
Yeah,
more cable.
not dramatically at this point. But eventually, the cable franchise fees and utility service taxes, those are gonna drop because of people aren't,
Right.
they're still using the internet, but they're not using the cable things, so you're gonna get a reduction eventually.
And communications
Same.
service tax, where does that come from, Lynn?
Frontier,
Oh, Spectrum.
Yeah,
Is that an annual fee to them charged by the city?
it's a tax, you're paying it.
Oh, it's on my Spectrum bill? Okay. Okay.
I got some phones to sell you, John.
Yeah, my wife pays all the bills. I just give her the money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get, basically, the
Yeah.
first 4 or 5 things are things that you get taxed
Okay.
by what you use. Like if you use less electricity, you get taxed less, but
Yeah. So Rick, the last thing I'll say,
Oh, no.
the last thing I'll say is that the renter's rental registration, Lynn, $100 for everybody that registers, right? And that's approximately $19,000. So if it went to $200,
it'd be.
you'd have another $19,000. And to me, I don't think that's a big thing, because rental rates, I know being in a 24-unit condo, we have about 10 to 12 units that are rented all the time. And those people are charging a lot of money to those renters. So me personally, I don't rent at my unit, but I'd
used
love
to
to
be-
see you increase it.
It
but-
used to be $300.
Oh,
And probably in the last 6 or 7 years, they lowered it.
You know why?
No, I wasn't involved in it, I don't really know why. It just took it to the council. I could probably find out what the discussion was, but
well,
they-
I think it should be
initially
considered
it was
raising it.
300. I know that for a
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be something to consider raising, but,
There might have been a rebellion.
So that's
And-
991.
and we've-
That's
Rick-
That's 991, number 3.
Rick,
So
I've
got
also,
keep a
yeah,
list of these, so that when I put this
yeah,
all together.
I do, I'll
we'll have
help.
all those
Yeah.
ideas.
I also am aware, and Lynn and I've just had a very brief discussion, that I know one unit in particular in our building where I'm absolutely positive she's not paying her $100, but she's renting her unit, and I don't think she'll ever pay her $100. But it's hard to police that, and I understand that, but,
Well, we can take her to code enforcement.
yeah,
And if she don't pay it, then now she'd have to pay $200.
okay.
And if we take her to code enforcement, she'd have to pay
And
$700.
she'll go, Lynn, who tattled on me?
Doesn't matter.
Anonymous.
All we gotta do is have the address and I'll
Yeah.
send the code
Okay,
guy.
we'll talk about that later.
Not
Or I'll
part
go,
Yeah.
I can catch him too.
Not
Yeah.
part of a condo association, but is it required that all owners
No, I just,
register
this is just a few.
tenants with the homeowners association?
Yes.
So maybe we police the management companies.
Nah,
Well-
most of them won't tell you.
A lot of them don't use a management company. We self-manage our building, so it's the board of directors that gets the rental form. And yeah, we do police who's renting and who isn't, who's a renter and who's
Is
not.
this the honor system?
What?
How do you do this $100? Is it the honor system?
Every homesteaded house, non-homesteaded house, every year in August, which that was just implemented a couple years ago. Prior to that, it was pretty much, you would send this thing out, but they didn't send it to all of, they basically sent it to the houses that had paid it before. So this is the second year. Last year I implemented that we're gonna use the non-homesteaded list. We're gonna send a mailing to all of those. Because if you're not homesteaded,
You're not there.
you're not there probably, or you've got a homestead somewhere else. And that increased the revenue by doing that. Of course, we get a lot of phone calls from people, oh, I'm not renting my house. Well, sign the affidavit, send it back to us, and then we've got it. But we do that annually. 2 years ago, I think we were collecting about 14,000, and now we're up in the 20s. So by doing that homesteaded and the follow-up, we've managed to pick up 6 or
That's a
7.
good idea. I like that. That would be-
Okay, last thing, Rick. I said the last thing was the last thing, but we have no commercial properties in the city. And we talked briefly about the Nautical Watch, the Beach Club, and the Bel-Air Beach Resort. That those are all rental, to me, from a layman, they're all commercial properties. But my question really is not so much how they got grandfathered as what kind of revenue could it generate if they were, all three of those were commercial
Well,
properties?
2 of the 3 are taxed commercially. It's just the land use map is not identifying them as commercial property.
Did you say tax commercially, that's their property tax is
Yes.
tax commercially?
Yes, 2 of the 3.
But sales tax,
Huh?
sales tax wise.
Well, they pay the sales tax like they would to the TDC and all that.
But we get no revenue.
You don't get
Sales
any
tax.
revenue from TDC.
But sales tax, but before TDC?
No, the sales tax, we get a half cent, which amounts to, it's state shared revenue. But as far as I call it the hotel tax, that
Mhm.
money is collected by Pinellas County, it goes into their countywide tourist development fund.
Mm-hmm.
And then they use it for what tourist activities. A good portion of it gets spent for beach renourishment, because that's part of the county match.
Oh, yeah.
The marketing, that's part, a good chunk of it. They do some things like, I'll use Philly Stadium or the Rays Stadium, or they paid into that. Not anymore, the Ray Stadium debt is paid for from the TDC. But the Blue Jays,
Blue Decker, Clearwater Marine Aquarium, those are all big TDC.
they submit projects and they get it because they're tourists.
Is the marina, how's that zoned? How's that lot zoned?
Marina.
You talk about the Bella Beach
Yeah.
Marina?
I don't know, there's another category, marina, that would be just residential and commercial, it's another zone called
No.
marina.
Yeah.
I wonder what you put, what does that mean, marina? Is there like a definition that we can figure out what can go into a marina? Like a restaurant for marina, a gas station for marina?
Well, I guess in hindsight, you would have to rezone it and redo through Pinellas County. It's a process. If you wanted to do something like that, it would have to be rezoned and the land map would have to be changed.
Would it have to be rezoned, like Jody Shirley mentioned, renting some space out for storage there? Would that have
No.
to be rezoned for that?
No,
Because why? Why would that be okay in some other income?
because we're doing the same thing there. It's just a different, a boat or a RV or
On
whatever.
land versus in water,
Yeah.
versus a
Yeah.
commercial business. It's
If you're putting a building on
Selling.
it, or, as an
structure.
example,
Goods.
if the
You're putting
city
a gas
said,
pump.
we want to sell that, a developer, the price the city would get for it would be depending on what a developer could get the land use changed to,
Right.
and what the city would allow, as an example. But there's another caveat with the marina. There's beach renourishment requirements for parking. And the marinas have been, there's 70 spaces in there.
So Lynn, which of those three properties I mentioned is not commercially taxed?
The Bel Air Beach Club.
Club,
the one-
right next door to me.
And the county's looking at that. And I talked to Kevin Hayes months ago about that, and they're doing some evaluation on all condos within Pinellas County, because there's other places the same thing where but the difference in the Bel Air Beach Club, a good majority of those they're not owned by the management company, they're owned by individuals.
That's correct, I do understand that,
Yeah,
yeah.
so-
I think there's only, I don't, do you know, I'm thinking there's like 38 or 40 units
It's
there.
38 or something.
Yeah, and I think 17 or 19 are owned by one entity.
Mm, no,
That's what I heard, I don't
It's not
know.
that many.
Okay, okay,
It's a lot of different owners,
yeah,
where the hotel is owned by one person, and Nautical Watch is owned by a management company because it's timeshare. But they are taxed at the commercial rate by the property.
and that brings more revenue than if it was a unit by unit,
Right.
okay. Done, for now.
Okay, I approached some of this by not looking at details, I just tried to stretch my mind in any possible way that I could come up with ways to increase revenue and/or decrease expenses. And I wrote these down, doesn't mean I agree with them all, but it was just an idea. So let me put these out there, and if they match with the ones that you all have, great. If not, probably even better, and then we can compile a list, and then I'll work on smoothing that out, and hopefully we'll have something we can present to the council. But the first one I have, I can't claim credit for, because it was John's idea. Or he put the idea in my head, so if this is a good idea, it's mine, if it's bad, it's his. Yeah. Master Chiefs have broad shoulders, so. There you go. But anyway, he mentioned the idea, and this is in the area of cost reduction, waste management. Okay, you know, looking at where the money goes, waste management is number, where is it, sanitation, almost 11%, $290,000. Now, we get our garbage picked up twice a week and recycling once a week. It would seem to me that if we potentially went to garbage pickup once a week and recycling every other week, like a lot of cities, I know when I lived in Colorado, that was the way it went. I know it's not a linear cost versus, you know, savings, but I would think that if we're paying $300,000, that if we cut our service in half, that would save at least $100,000, I would think. But that's just an idea.
So may I
Just an
ask,
idea.
so as a residential homeowner of a single-family home, that's you, right,
Yeah,
Rick?
yeah,
You get your garbage picked up twice a week?
Mondays and Thursdays.
As a 24-unit condo, we get it picked up twice. We need it twice.
Okay.
I
Twice a
wouldn't
week
be,
or twice a week?
twice a week,
Okay.
Tuesdays and Fridays. I would not be against, as a condo owner, having to pay ourselves as condo association for our garbage collection, or pay, we only get one free, we get our second one we have to pay for, because I will tell you, we need two collections because of the amount of trash that we put into our dumpster.
Through the water bill?
But my single family home in Michigan for 40 years, we only got picked up once a week.
But, so, not to,
Yeah.
how can we keep getting that revenue, but lower the expense? Because I think that's an option, right? That's kind of what we're
Yeah.
looking for, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are we willing to, you know, if this is just a it's just a pass-through, right?
Yeah,
So,
we
it's a great
pay,
idea, but I'm not sure where we would get a benefit from a revenue.
Would just,
An
would
extra
just be an increased
$100,000.
expense. Right, it would be.
Yeah, but
a
it doesn't,
significant-
it's not like we can apply that $100,000 that we just saved to another item in the budget, because we're not gonna be able to bill that $100,000.
yeah, it's a pass-through,
It's totally a pass-through.
pretty much.
Okay.
You know, their contract, and I talked, when we went out to bid, I did talk to the couple of the vendors about, would I save any money by going to once a week? And it was negligible.
Yeah.
Really?
The reason being, because the amount of trash is not gonna change.
Well,
So
yeah.
what that means is, they're gonna have to throw more trucks out here.
Okay.
And the tipping fee's not gonna change, that goes to the county.
It'll go up over time, I'm sure.
No.
Well, it just
right.
did last year.
Yeah, but it'd be about the same, the
Mhm.
tipping fees that they're paying. But, you know, there's not a great benefit because of, you know, the amount of trash that's given. Recycling, I'd say 50% of the homeowners recycle, if
Most
that.
cities are even looking at doing away with it, because there's no.
Did that-
there's
there's no
income
cost.
from it.
Right.
Like there
Advantage
used
to it anymore.
Yeah, we don't get any.
So, this is probably on the low end of expense.
Yeah, it's just a pass-through.
I was liking the idea till I
So-
started thinking about the mechanics.
The mechanics of it, yeah. Okay,
I
well.
mean, I could ask them how much, but,
So was John's idea.
Oh, yeah, John.
but the thing would be, you'd have to, you know,
Yeah.
would it be fair to the residents not to reduce the rate?
Well, I'm just trying to come up, yeah, I don't know where, yeah.
Well,
I'm just trying to come up with ideas that we can put out there, and then we can
What is it? Up for bid again?
debate the merits ultimately.
Let's see, 4 more years. It's a 5-year contract.
Is there a way to derive some city revenue from that, from an impact? I mean, you've got these trash trucks running over your roads twice a week, and they're not your little family SUV. I mean, you're talking heavy vehicles rolling over your residential roads, and you wonder why we got cracks and valley curves especially. I mean, where do these trucks roll up? They roll right up on your valley curve.
Sure they do.
You wonder why you have cracks and valley curves being destroyed. And maybe it's time to assess an impact fee on those guys. I mean, get back some of that.
they're just gonna
pass-through.
pass it on to us.
Oh, I realize that.
Yeah.
I realize that.
But if
No,
I,
they pass it on to the residents. remember it's a pass-through.
Right.
So.
When I
it's
meant
pass-
us, I meant residents.
So it was-
But can I expound again on what I
Yeah, yeah.
was suggested last meeting about changing the scheduling, if you will? I lived in the city of Apopka for 15 years, and when I moved in there, we got twice a week pickup, every other week. No, we got weekly because we were using bins like we use now. Okay? The city did a study, and they found that they could save money by going to the large cans with the trucks with the mechanical arm, okay? Because now you only have one person instead of two, okay?
Yeah.
The same thing with recycling. You had to have two people on a truck. So they saved on the recycling. We still had yard pickup in a regular truck like Waste Management uses now. And then they also, with the larger stuff, you could call, and up to a certain point, that was included in your trash pickup. And again, it was billed into our water bill each month. The point was they were able to use a bigger truck with a little more capacity, not necessarily in gross weight per se, but a larger truck that would carry more, okay? And of course, the city had to pay the tip and fee to go to the dump anyway. But, and the city literally absorbed the cost, or maybe they passed it on in their fee, using those cans, those larger cans. But our recycling was done every other week. We still had twice weekly pickup, but many times, because my wife and I were we've been empty nesters forever, we didn't create a lot of trash. We still don't create a lot of trash. And I don't know, I don't go around and look at people's trash piles, the night before trash day, but I'm just saying that I think there's a way to get a cost savings. And what I saw on TV news before we came to last meeting, when Sarasota County went to it, I don't remember the numbers, they were able to find cost savings, and Waste Management was their contractor.
No, you would get some cost savings,
And
but.
granted, it's a pass-through, but it's less money.
But you aren't gonna get any revenue from it.
Well,
You're only gonna get what you're being charged.
but the vice mayor's got
Got
a
it.
point too.
Yeah, I follow.
It's a
If
inexpensive
you have less wear and tear on our infrastructure, and especially the valley curbs, like you said, mine are all messed up. They've been messed up for years.
Do we know of any cities or municipalities that charge an impact fee on trash?
I know the city,
Does the state allow cities to get an over?
I don't, on trash, I don't know.
Where do you draw the line then? You got moving trucks coming in, you got
So-
building trucks, where do you draw the line? If I was the Waste Management, I would say you're charging everybody else.
So it sounds like we're
Yeah.
an idea.
You know,
Yeah,
Just keep that.
I think maybe, compile, and then we can come back,
Yeah.
look at them and see if there are things that we would even want to bring in front of the council. The second one I had was looking under the finance officer there. Finance is, 2.70, and when I looked at the individual bud lines there, I noticed it was $70,000 for a finance officer. What does that mean? Is a finance officer the people who put our audits together and
No.
provide the council with their financial reports?
that's a charter
I-
officer. That's
Yeah, I
the
think
city's
that's
finance officer,
different
which is
things.
it's
There's nobody
subcontracted
anymore.
now.
Okay,
No, it's contractual services now.
Contractual services, I
There is no
figured.
finance officer in the
Okay.
current budget. It's, all contracted. And there's a 17, I think it's 17.5 this year, for, the audit that's in there.
yeah, I think that was what it was, I remember.
Okay, yeah, may I ask about,
Eventually, that's gonna go up because that company has been absorbed
yeah,
by another company.
Okay.
And when that contract's up, which is next year, not this fiscal year, next fiscal year, we'll have to go out for an RFP.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, based on what I know of costs for audits, that number's going up.
It's a great,
Possibly.
that's a great price at 7.5. Were they, who did on it? Was it Burger Machine?
No, it's Davison.
Is it a state mandated or city mandated that we have an audit every year? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like you do an audit one year, do a compilation the next
It's not an
year.
option.
Not an option.
All right, I got it.
So if you look at the current budget, there's 56,000 in professional services.
Yeah.
There is no, there's no payroll or payroll taxes or
Right,
anything like
right,
that.
yeah, yeah.
That's all gone.
Okay.
Previous year, yes, there was. And you can't really look at, well, if you look at the previous year, the subtotal for those personal services was $98,000. But now those are gone, but it's a trade-off with the contractual. So we ended up saving about, I think it was like almost $50,000 in the current year budget. It was reduced.
So Lynn, is
Probably
this,
not a lot of, no, probably not any room for, what you're saying is we're getting good service for a very fair fee
Right.
in that area, okay.
so is the 44,000, which is the annual accounting services fees that they charge, is that the same firm that does the audit?
No,
Oh, different.
different firm.
Okay.
No. They can't be the same.
Who does the 44?
It's Andy Test. And the 44 is actually all of those numbers, actually it's 54.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
they
'cause
do contract work for the budget, but it's an average fee.
is he a one-man band or is he a firm?
He has
some
a
type of firm?
company, it's an
Yeah.
LLC.
Okay.
He's a CPA, and he has a girl that works with him. She's a CPA also.
Mhm.
And then we outsource the payroll,
Yeah,
so that costs us about, I think it's, every payroll's like $66.
yeah, that, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the payroll, I assume maybe the city's looked at health insurance costs and is it, who's the carrier now? Is it Blue Cross Blue Shield? or-
Florida Blue,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And you're happy with that so far?
Well, the problem is, we only have limited employees, so you got a battle there when you're trying to get health insurance. And we've tried a couple times to
Yeah.
tap onto another city, and the carriers, they're not interested in that.
Really?
Mhm.
Interesting.
And so,
What about using a PEO? Does any municipalities use that?
using the what?
A professional employer organization, an employee leasing company?
We haven't looked into that, we've looked into other healthcare. We have a healthcare broker that goes out and looks for us to see what we can get.
By leveraging an employee leasing company, you get the benefit of all their customers to come through. So that might just be something to have a quick conversation.
Yeah.
I actually had written down as a non-departmental costs, I put actively review costs for the cost related to all of Department 519 in its entirety to include insurance review. I don't know if that's something that the council and or mayor require or request of you every year, but there are a lot of interesting costs in that 519.
Well,
It's rather extensive.
yeah, because it's basically
Workers' compensation.
work
all
comp,
insurance.
the utilities,
all
all that stuff
Yeah.
is in there.
Yeah.
And the city attorney's in there,
Yeah.
the phone system, postage. I mean, it is a lot of stuff in
Yeah,
there.
I would think that's something you would review annually anyway. I know
Well, we
you're
look at the
looking for ways
leases,
to-
we look at the insurance every year. And a lot of times, if you really look at the budgets over the years, yeah, we budget for X, because you don't know tomorrow, you could have a $20,000 repair
Sure.
in a building or something. So, I don't think it's,
Right.
my perspective, it's not an overstated number,
Okay.
but
Next thing I had down, I put, consider hiring a professional grant specialist to take a look at basically everything we do. Now, I know you're well experienced in this, and I don't mean this any kind of slight to you, but.
no, we have
there's-
looked.
So that'd be a revenue?
No,
Item?
it's an expense.
It would be an expense, but I would hope that it would result in some cost savings. But initially, and I don't know what a grant specialist costs, but having someone come in and look at everything that we're doing, who's really in tune with all the recent legal changes and challenges and all that, there may be some things out there that are larger ticket items that we might be able to send out. And as you said, with everything else you do, who writes the grants? I think you said Kyle has been
He's
involved
learning.
in that, he's
Yeah.
learning. It's a lot of work to do that and do it right, but that's just a thought I had. It might
Well,
result in
we-
some significant savings.
I did talk to a lady that, and she gave me a proposal, just to come in and research
Yeah.
possible grants, not to write a grant. She wanted about $8,000 to do that. And then when I started checking her references,
Yeah.
I found out she wasn't a municipal government grant writer, she was more a 501c3.
Okay.
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit, which is a different animal.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
And with our projects, we're gonna start asking whoever the engineering firm is, if they can do some of that.
Okay.
As part of the project.
Okay.
But the only problem with that is a project that's ongoing in this fiscal year, they're not gonna help us with a grant for that, but they might give us some lead for a grant for a future project. Because grants aren't something that you get today, get with the project immediately.
You're right, it may take years to get the money.
It's kind of like the Land and Water Conservation Grant for Bayside Park. We put that in March or April. We were officially notified in December. And we have till sometime in the summer to accept it or turn it back. But, we scored second in the state within that grant,
Yeah.
which was for a city our size. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And, we explore them, but a lot of these grants, this city's not gonna qualify for. Swiftmund's not gonna give you any money because we're not a regional system. We've been down that road already. Hazard mitigation, we'll try again, but 7th Street's a good example of what we were told. It's not impacting enough people to,
Right.
and there's not a major repetitive loss on 7th Street. So you're fighting
Yeah.
so you don't get the one-to-one cost-benefit ratio. But
My thought is, though, someone who's really an expert in that area may be able to fight, argue, litigate some of that. And where I'm going, which I don't really get in today, but with the rising waters we have, and, I think at some point we're gonna have to really address, particularly with our revenue based on property taxes, and we're all reading what potentially could happen to property values. Maybe we can get on the cutting edge of finding out what is the government gonna do, if anything, to help owners, homeowners, coastal communities with billions and maybe trillions of dollars to deal with these challenges, because I think that would be a huge advantage if we could present that to the citizens, that, hey, we're proactively looking at what we know is gonna be the future, regardless of where you think it's coming from, the water is coming up, and it's gonna impact us significantly, so. All right, the other thing I put down was law enforcement. I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
I spoke to the assistant mayor of the city of Clearwater, and I was talking to him about our park grant. And I asked him, I said, do you have somebody who does your grants? And he said their lobbying firm does it.
Oh, I'm sorry, who?
They have a lobbying firm.
A lobbying
They
firm,
also
yeah.
do some of their grants. So I'm just mentioning that,
Yeah.
so if you're looking for resources, you might want to look for one of their lobbying group.
Law enforcement is a huge number there, 18%, and it's about $500,000. Now, and I might be wrong, this is just little bits and pieces I picked up from the city council meetings, but I think the requirement as laid out by the council, led by the mayor, is to have one officer on duty 24/7. Am I right on that? Is that at the end of the day?
Mhm.
So I'm wondering how that adds up to $500,000.
Well,
I
it's-
mean, a deputy's paid whatever, $80,000 in their vehicle, but where do we come up with $500,000 for one police officer? Because I think I'm gonna get my law enforcement degree. Hire me.
Well, it's 24/7 and 8-hour shifts, so it's 3 times 80, it's 240.
I think they're, right now, they're basically running 12s. Yeah.
There's two.
Well, there's a
So,
formula
okay.
that the sheriff uses.
Right.
And it's, I can get you a
We're
copy of the
contracted for
contract.
one.
No,
It's
this-
very
Very-
detailed there.
I'll bet, yeah.
It's 24 hours.
Yeah.
And
We're also paying the due code enforcement, that's a total separate
Separate
expense,
entity.
too.
Separate entity.
we pay
Separate entity.
40,
37,000.
40,
For
no,
code
no,
enforcement.
but I'm saying what we pay per hour is about
Oh.
$46
Okay.
for code enforcement. But that's a separate entity, that has
Okay.
nothing to do with law enforcement. I can tell you this, when the police force that we used to have was here, at that time, our budget was over $600,000 for the police force that the city of Bel Air Beach had.
Does that include pension liability?
Pension liability, everything, over $600,000. And when the
That's good.
voters,
10 years?
yeah, when the voters determined to do away with the police department, which they did, and go to the sheriff, that cost dropped to, I think it was like, the first year was probably 300 and something.
So cut it like by half or so.
Yeah. Today, if you had that same police force, it'd be over $1 million.
Yeah, gotcha.
And we're paying 400 and whatever.
90 or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you pretty sure, in the last bid, you went to the city of Clearwater, like you said, no interest, all the
Yeah, but-
other municipalities that have a police force?
You can only go to the one that touch your city, and that's 2 of them. That's Clearwater and Bel Air.
Oh,
Bel Air wants nothing to do with it, I can tell you that, for
Yeah.
sure. And the mayor talked to somebody in Clearwater. And I will tell you that when we changed, we did all that before, went through that whole process, went to Clearwater, went to Bel Air, they had no interest in it. And, because their costs are gonna go up, and,
okay.
so from a cost benefit, the sheriff is the cheapest consideration.
Cheaper, yeah. And I didn't, council's pleased, right, with what the Pinellas County sheriffs are doing?
I think we are. I mean, overall, I don't say that, and I'm not saying this in a nasty way, it's not, the reason why we have 0 crime in the city isn't solely because of the sheriff.
Mhm.
We have people know who belongs in this city. I think
Yeah.
neighbors keep a good eye out, because, one person is not patrolling every street in the city. We've got 40 streets, and he could only be on one block at a time. So, I did go to Clearwater. They didn't have any interest in it, but Clearwater's going to be changing mayors in March, so I will reapproach that. I'm not going to stop with this. The problem why the sheriff, and you're correct, I mean, the price is high, okay? Maybe it's good comparison if we had our own, but if there were competition and we could get some bidding on this thing, we might be able to lower that number. Problem is, there's no one else who could really bid on it. Largo is too far away probably to do
But
it right.
Indian, how about Indian Rocks, do they have?
Sheriff.
Indian Rock says sheriff, yeah.
Oh, they
Indian
do?
Shores is the closest one, they have their own private force. I don't know what they're paying, it's probably worth pulling their budget to see what they're doing, because they do have their own force at Indian Shores. But, and I think one of the Bel Air has it? Bel Air has it, right? So, I mean, that's really all we have to choose from, and if Clearwater's the most logical, because all they have to do is just come right down the
Yeah.
block after they get done with Samkey. But, no interest, I mean, so I couldn't even get them to give me a number, but if we can, that might give the
They're
sheriff.
not compelled by law to help us? They're not?
They're compelled to help you on emergency, so like a major emergency, but they're not compelled to handle patrolling your streets on a regular basis. So
Right.
if you have a SWAT, if I get this right, and Lynn, tell me
So
if
in
I'm
other
wrong.
words, we
If
don't
they have like a
have to have
SWAT,
that?
If you had like a SWAT situation, they'll come and help your local force, but if you want local patrol, that's, you got to.
So they offer patrol.
Mhm.
So do we ever talk about, do we need this local patrol? What do they give us?
If we don't have it, I would venture to say, hypothetically, if the crime went up or insurance carriers got wind of it, property
Yeah.
insurance would go up. Just
I
like,
don't remember
They
getting
wouldn't
a discount.
respond.
I don't remember getting a discount on my insurance. They never asked me if I have local patrol.
Well, no, I don't think that has anything to do with it.
No, right, so I'm
but-
thinking, what's the impact if we stop that? Or we try to stop it? Like, think about it. These people, they're talking to me that we have one patrol call always going on, how many streets do we have?
40.
We have 2 miles, don't we have 2 miles here?
1.9.
Okay, it's called 2 miles. So we have a guy in a car, sheriff in a car, driving around 2 miles 24/7. So that means when I call the police, the impact to me is that police officer is 2 miles away from me. Is that what,
That's
that's
the
what the
furthest
thing?
point.
And if I didn't have that sheriff, how many miles is the closest police officer?
They wouldn't
They
come.
have to come.
What do you mean they wouldn't call? I call 911, they wouldn't come?
They,
It's an
I don't know
active-
how that
It's an
works.
active
No.
shooter, but not if it's a, if somebody.
No,
broke
I
in your
just
car.
called the police. Someone just broke into my house. You're not gonna come over to my
you don't
house?
have police?
No.
Who's
You're
What
kidding.
police are you calling?
You have to have a
911.
But you have to have a designated police force responsible for your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not an option we're talking about. That's why I was wondering, you made it sound like it was an option. We don't have an option here. Okay, then we should move on, because we don't have an option.
No, I would like
But
to
I
add,
still think we can look
But
at
to
the
tell you the truth,
contract.
I would
Yeah.
cancel
We
them
can
if
leave
I
that as
called
something out there
911.
Yeah.
that maybe
to
could be
keep the
reviewed.
sheriff competitive. I like that idea, but I want to give you an
No
action.
one's advocating doing away with it,
No.
we're just
I
trying to look at.
would
the-
like to do away with this if I
How many
called 911 they
like,
came.
2
You're
at a
saying they
time?
didn't come. I don't know if that's
Or
true.
so is it one at a time?
Doesn't make sense.
So when I see 2 cop cars sitting
Can we
here
talk about that
and they're
for a
talking
minute?
to each other,
You really
because I see
convinced
that
them?
quite a bit when I'm coming home over the bridge, who's that other cop?
There,
I don't know if that's
okay,
true.
how the sheriff's contract works is, there are other police officers that come through our city or assist with something.
Mhm.
So, we're paying for one, okay, but they have us surrounded with sheriff's deputies. So, if there's a call, as an example, let's say there's 2 calls. We only have 1 deputy, well, that 1 deputy's gonna go to 1 call, and a sheriff's deputy from
Indian Rocks,
Indian
maybe.
Rocks or Bluffs or somewhere is gonna come and go to the other call.
Mhm.
And if they need backup,
Then they're gonna call additional.
and then additional deputies are
And we
gonna
get
come.
charged for those
No, you
additionals.
don't. No fee.
Somebody, and I don't remember who it was,
No.
tried to explain that to me because I questioned why our contract for one officer was so high. And they came up with this business of we get charged pro rata for additional sheriffs,
No.
Marine Patrol, da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, and I'm thinking, this does not make sense. So I'm like a couple of others here, I wanna see the sheriff's contract.
Yeah.
And we're sure that we have to have this.
Because they're
By
giving
law.
assistance, if our guy's tied up, someone from another
Yeah.
area is coming to take care of the other call.
Right.
We could create a side group if you guys really want to explore it. I think it's a moot point, but.
Yeah,
No, I'd just like to weigh in on one
Yeah,
incident,
yeah.
because if, I have no problem with trying to keep the sheriff competitive, but I have a real aversion to going to the city of Clearwater, because I don't think they would put us as a priority at all. I think the sheriff does, because we're part of the county, and we had an incident at the Bel Air Sands where I live a year ago, and it got very, very difficult for the police. There were 3 sheriff cars there dealing with a drunken man, young man, who was out of control. And the sheriff was phenomenal. Phenomenal is all I can tell you of what they did. And they had 3 patrol cars there to handle this kid. And they not only took him away, he came back. And they had to come back, and they brought a paddy wagon to throw him in and take him to jail. It was phenomenal, and I have the most respect for the sheriff's
Yeah, you're
department
getting a
right
lot
now.
of resources from
Yeah.
the sheriff that you may not get so much from like, Bel Air doesn't have all those resources.
Yeah.
They're a small police force. And that was part of our reasoning, it
Mhm.
was escalating when the voters voted to get rid of the police force. It was because of cost escalation. And, if you just took the inflation rate,
Mm-hmm.
from 10 years ago,
Yeah.
well, 12 years ago, I think it was, 2007, 13 years ago now. If you took that inflation rate,
Yeah.
just on that budget year, that number, you're probably over $1 million. And they've made more, how do I say it? They put more requirements on police
Yeah, all
officers,
that.
Mm-hmm.
you know, so it was not conducive for the city to,
Well, there may not be, it's just a thought to look at that contract and see.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wrote down was the debt on this building. I don't know, when was the last time we looked at potentially refinancing that money? I don't know the details of that, but there's a lot of very, I'm refinancing what I have left on my mortgage because people are basically offering almost free money out there. So I don't know if that's possible or not. I didn't pull up the line to see what we're paying on the interest, what that, you probably know that number
there's
off the top of your head.
our issue is there's a prepayment fee. And I kind of
Oh.
explained that last time.
Yeah, you did. You're
But-
right.
Yep.
Where a lot of people don't realize that when we got that money, we made a lot of money on it at the time because we took it at a low interest rate and reinvested it.
You reinvested it.
And till this building was built.
Bill, okay.
And I think right now it's the balance on principal is $960.
Okay.
So next 6 years it'll be paid off.
And, you know, and you know, I'm sure you know roughly how much we pay every month in interest on that?
It's 200 a year.
Per quarter, it's about 11,000 in interest per quarter.
So whether that's a feasible way or not, I don't know, but it's just something I was looking at. Yes, ma'am.
I think the monthly payment is 16,666.
I think.
It's close. Like last quarter.
If you
the
divide
payment was
12 into
51,000.
200,000, the P and I.
Okay.
Is it a possibility that we could rent out this space more often,
Yeah, we'll
get a realtor involved? And then the realtor would only get paid when we have a sale, they get commission based off of what we rented out for. Is that a possibility?
I don't know what a realtor would, I
Oh,
don't know that a realtor would come and rent.
Meeting room space.
Yeah, I don't know that a realtor would, that would be something a realtor would do.
Event planners.
It would be event planner or something like
Is
that.
that
That's-
something
I
I
think
can
so.
look into though?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to a couple of event planners, but to no fruition out of it, you know?
Because I feel like that's kind of not wasted space, but it sits empty until you have council meetings. And there's the occasional rentals from locals, or if you have the festival like we did. But I feel like that's income that could be used.
Or Lynn, you could just build it out into
Yeah.
overnight rentals. You have a beautiful view of the intercoastal.
You know, I could do that, and we could put the console chambers in the garage, pull the
There you
windows
go.
out where it was.
Did anyone else have any
That's where it
ideas
was.
as to how we might save money?
Not save money, make money.
Well, how about on the save money side, just so we kind of finish that thought, and then we can move, because I think I think it's easier to come up with thoughts about how we might raise money than to
think so?
reduce. Hey, anyone want to add to what I've kind of put out there as far as ways we might reduce expenses?
Well, I just wanted to ask, what is the Municipal Code Corporation codification of $3,000? What is
That's
that?
the muni code that we have, that every time an ordinance is changed, it's codified and it's put online.
I went to look there today, because I wanted to find out if synthetic grass is allowed. So I went to the Municode, but I couldn't find it, because I couldn't find it, it didn't come up
So,
with the search.
It's an annual fee, Lynn, that you have to pay for that? Okay.
Yeah, so if a code changes, they rewrite it and edit the code and put it in.
Okay, and I saw in the budget, this is just small stuff, but I saw in the IT section that there was $2,000 for iPad. Is it really iPads?
Yeah,
Okay, plural?
yeah, three.
Just- And then the Southern Telephone Maintenance Agreement, what is that?
That's for our telephone system in City Hall.
But we also pay Spectrum a phone fee?
Yeah, what, the maintenance agreement, the phone system was bought, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. and then we pay an annual maintenance fee for anything that, I'm talking the phones.
Mm-hmm.
To get the phone service to those phones, you have to pay Spectrum and Verizon,
Got it.
either for internet or phone service.
And I assume our property insurance gets reviewed or bid out periodically?
Well, most of our property insurance for the most part is done through the Florida League of Cities. And they,
Yeah, I bet.
huh?
Not gonna beat that. No. Okay.
The only thing that's outside of that, and we look at that, is like flood insurance on this building and the Cedar building.
When I see in the budget $7,000 for facilities/building repairs, that's just an estimate of what may happen.
Right.
Not just in this building, is it? Could it be down at the marina
No,
or something?
it's for
Or
this
just this building? What goes wrong that would?
Well, let's see.
Air conditioning.
Leaks, toilet
Plumbing.
backups.
Plumbing,
Yeah.
last year, we had an issue with the air conditioner. A couple years ago, whole air conditioner system went out, and they had to replace it, which was significantly more than that. It just, it depends what happens.
And what you need to repair a house, it always happens.
So Rick, to follow up, I was just looking at the loan agreement. I think it would be a good idea, I mean, it's $200,000 a year in debt service, and just if we go back to that first meeting where we talked about we got $1 million reserve fund for hurricanes.
Yeah.
If our balance is 960, we could save 200 grand, create a line of credit that we might pay $1 grand a year to have $1 million in dry powder available. If we get rid of the, I mean, we're probably making, what, 1.5%? Something like that on the $1 million.
About 1.8,
We're paying 3.9.
yeah, I think it's 3.8, 3.9.
So that 2% difference on $1 million is 200 grand.
It's a lot of money. Yeah.
So that should, I think we should just get SunTrust just to give us what the prepayment looks like, because with rates down, you at one point we had an inverted yield curve. Maybe we need to realize that if that happens again, we need to jump on that if that's what drives it, but maybe check with Adam and see if they can just at least give us and you throw out the city sitting on $1 million extra cash, we may just want to pay it off and have a line of credit. And then we can talk about, storm operations down the way, but that might be an idea.
Do we need to make that in the form of a motion?
Well, no,
Or
we
just-
can just.
No, I think
keep it
I'm
as
gonna
we put it all
consolidate
together.
this, so when we
Okay.
come back next time, we'll have a little bit more structured, I think, discussion, because this is
That's-
where we're just putting out ideas here.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no,
Even
that's
though
it.
we're
Yeah.
gonna get stuck paying all of the interest to the maturity date based on, the balance and everything, because I've studied that thing backwards and forwards
I
and
can just
inside
tell you
out.
right Now, if somebody wanted to borrow money from me for 10 years today,
Mm-hmm.
the difference between floating and long-term is about 30 basis points.
Mm-hmm.
So it's less than a third of 1%.
Oh.
So the gap is so narrow today, it's probably the narrowest I've ever seen it in my nearly 30 years of banking. So it's a good time to just make that ask.
Yeah.
So we just pay it off.
We just become informed, that's all.
Yes.
We
And tied
then we
in-
can decide to act.
tied in exactly what you're saying, and one of the things I want to talk about increasing was reviewing city fund investment strategies, maybe a cost reduction, might be a cost reduction in revenue building.
We'll do a
And
hopefully
all of
it's-
that with our CDs
I
and
hope it's a revenue opportunity that
But,
maybe we can
so.
have a simplified investment strategy and get more return, just like using the SBA is paid a little bit higher than maybe some of the short-term CDs, and having that daily accessible cash is better for the city than having something like that, even 6 months out.
Right,
And then 6 months out, you're only getting 1% of
That's
whatever
awesome.
we're on.
1.6.
And that's
That's pretty good still for 6 months.
We'll have to delve into that, yeah,
If you get an extra 20 bips
yeah,
and have it at your beck and call, that's a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I have talked to Florida League of Cities, and the gentleman's going to come and visit me. He hasn't yet, but I've talked to him about possibly doing some investments in there. They call it 0 to 2, but it's bonds. And, currently they're doing about 3, but it's a risk, and,
Yeah.
the city council would have to
Sure.
approve that risk
Right.
long-term.
Okay. So revenue, okay, John. Yeah.
There's an item in the budget, Lynn, that refers to some $4,000 budgeted to mail trash bills.
That's part of we pay a fee to the county to add that to the water bill. That's what that's for.
$4,000 a year,
They bill us for it.
non-negotiable.
It's like the 4%,
Jeez.
that's not negotiable. It's like the, what is it?
Billing of the tax bill, the property thing.
The assessment, it's not negotiable. This is the
Yeah.
price, that's what they charge.
Okay.
But that money is wound into the cost of trash.
So you're kind of saying that's a pass-through too?
Yeah, it's pass through.
Okay. Trying to find
Yeah.
nickels and dimes here and there,
Yeah.
maybe a few quarters.
Well, Jim, go ahead.
Does Florida Lake City have maybe an umbrella policy we could go under when we talk about the employees' health insurance and workers' comp and thing? Because then, we all know when you're in a bigger group, buying power, everything is always cheaper.
I'm trying to remember if they have employee health insurance. I don't remember if they do or don't. I mean, it's a question I can ask. But every person I've ever talked to is, it's a problem because
Employee benefits,
we've only got
Florida League
4
cities.
that are in the employee
leasing
health care.
options.
And so that's, it's hard to get someone from an insurance company come and say, oh yeah, we'll take your risk. And, so it costs us about, I think overall, it's like $4,200 a month for the health insurance. And dental's about $260 a month. And that's got vision with it, I believe. So
We have 5 or 6 compensated employees.
we have 6, but two employees take the stipend to pay their health insurance,
Okay.
which is well,
So
it's 50%. It's less than 50% of the typical employee's cost.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair price, but yeah, okay.
Is all of their insurance paid by the city? Or is there a cost share? Is there a payroll deduction?
No, years ago, the city used to pay half of their dependents. They stopped that.
Mhm.
And then they reduced it to 25%, and when the last employee retired that was in that plan, it went to just the employees.
Okay.
And if you go we did a study to all the cities. I would say 90+% of the cities pay the employees' health insurance.
Pinellas County pays their employees.
Yeah, and half of some of the cities even pay dependent coverage, but it's very few.
Want to switch to the increasing revenue side? We know any other ideas for decreasing costs potentially? No?
When you all talked about your maybe doing an impact fee or anything like that earlier, I was thinking about this. So if we take, when we talk about infrastructure and things that are we're having problems with, what about vehicles that are doing business within the city over a certain gross weight should have to pay a fee, because of the stress they're putting on our streets and stuff?
Well, I can tell you right now, Clearwater and Largo would have a hissy fit. I see their trash trucks going up and down Gulf Boulevard. Yes, sir.
Maybe Clearwater.
I've seen Largo. And that doesn't make a bit of sense to me why Largo would be going.
He might have been lost, John.
Clearwater.
No, I don't
I've
know if he
never
was
seen
lost or
that.
not.
Clearwater maybe because of the Santee, but Indian Rocks maybe, because they have their own internal trash.
Gulf Boulevard maintained by DOT or
County.
county?
County.
So it'd only be if those trucks were going up and down our streets, residential streets, not Gulf Boulevard or Bel Air Causeway.
Yeah, that's,
What I'm seeing that I referred to was my observations when I'm out doing yard work in the front yard, or I may be in my vehicle. I have seen Clearwater for sure, and I think a time or two I've seen Largo.
I don't know why Largo would.
But yeah, you know, the county vehicles for public works and whatever, the gas company, they're county, so they got free reign. They go come and go as they please.
Okay, well, I put that down, I'll add that to the list, and then we can come back and look at them item by item. So anyway, some ideas for increasing, again, I'm not saying that I agree with this, but I'm just trying to think out of the box a little bit. I was rather surprised to find that we generate $90,000 a year through the Morgan Park parking fees. So we do have, you know where I'm going with this, we do have other beach accesses.
That 90,000 is, when you say generate, it's generating all the 4 parking meters we have.
Okay, we have a lot of other beach accesses that have no.
Those aren't ours.
Well, that,
We've had that conversation.
we've had that, okay. So
You mean
maybe
those
we'll,
big
I'll just
other
hold that
shores?
and I'll,
Is that what-
rather than waste everyone's time on that, we can have an aside about that, because I'm not, that's way beyond my pay grade there.
May I just ask, what is the parking fee if I pulled into Morgan Park and I didn't have a Bel?
20, but no.
No, I have a Bel Air. Yeah, I don't have a Bel. If I don't have a Bel Air Beach sticker.
$3 an hour on weekdays, $4 an hour on weekends, 15 for the day, or 20 for the day.
Can they use a credit card? I don't even know.
Credit
Okay.
card, dollar bills, no
Yes.
quarters,
Got it.
No coins, okay.
no coins.
And those meters require repairs periodically? People abuse them, or they're just not made very well? I don't know.
They don't require a lot of repair. A lot of the stuff, you know, between me and Kyle, we can fix them. I fix them on the weekend. They send me an email telling me something's wrong.
Well, we have a $3,000 budget for the repairs.
Well, like we upgraded them last year to the newer meters, the guts of them and the face. So, you know, it just depends. Maybe this year we won't have that expense. I mean, we've had a few dollars of expense.
That reminds me, what's the merchant interchange fee?
Credit card, you accept a credit card, you pay
3%,
3.5%.
yeah, 3.5.
Okay.
Okay.
But
Okay,
those meters and that line item for maintenance, is it, I'll just ask the question, the revenue from Morgan Park parking or all the parking meters, that line item for maintenance comes out of that revenue, right?
It comes out of that.
It's kind of like the marina being self-sufficient. So in a sense, the revenue from the parking meters is the self-sufficiency, if you will, for the maintenance.
If you did that, but in government, you have an expense side and you have a revenue
Right,
side.
okay.
Different.
No,
Yeah. You
so
know that.
it's similar then to the marina. I get it, yep.
Are we generating more tickets, money from the tickets since we put the meters in? Ticketing people?
It's slowed down because people are paying because they don't want to pay $35, and then if they don't pay in 15 days, they have to pay $70. And then if
Yeah.
they don't pay after that, then we turn it over to collection. And we don't get
Yeah.
all of that back, but it's a better system that we do it in-house as opposed to what the city was doing. The city-
Outsourcing.
Well, the city was letting the sheriff turn the ticket in to the clerk of the court, and whether you collected it or not, it cost us $10. And I changed that because the code, how the code read or reads, says that we will collect that. And previously, they weren't doing that. So we get a little more revenue for ourselves, but if you can't collect them, there's nothing you can do about it because there's not a whole lot you can do to someone from out of state.
Yeah.
It's a ticket, and that's traditionally who gets the tickets.
Is it code enforcement that issues those tickets, or?
Code enforcement can do it. Laura, Kyle, Vernell,
Lynn?
Lynn, write them. We're all
Glenn.
certified. No, Glenn can't.
He can't. Okay.
We're all certified to write
He's going down our
tickets.
street all day.
Yeah.
You can take the street light away, man.
Hey, wait, it's only been working 2 days. Let it keep working for a little bit longer.
No, so, yeah, we sent the employees, I got my certification a long time ago, but I sent the employees here to that certification class. It was 2 days. They had to go down and do their study, take a test, and then the sheriff takes them out to some parking lot and tells them to go find people to write tickets on. And then the sheriff deputy's there, he'll end up writing the ticket, but it's practice.
OJT.
Yeah, so
What's our hourly rate for the parking again?
3 and 4.
$3 and $4?
$3 on weekdays, $4 on weekends and holidays.
Competitive. I mean, Clearwater's $3.50, so.
Yeah, no.
We have a cap, right? They don't have a cap.
Clearwater has a day cap.
I'm not seeing it. It looks like it goes by the hour, at least what they advertise. But
I think they
I
have,
thought they were up to like $30 for the day or something.
they may be now,
Yeah.
but
Or is that a private parking garage?
No, that's the
No.
City of Clearwater's garages.
A lot of those surface lots are 10 and 20.
Well, they just raised everything to try
Yeah,
to make
10
it
and
equal.
20.
to more
Well, they own
places.
that big garage now, don't
Yeah,
they?
they have a couple, and I think, so they went up to like 30 a day, so we might, pennies, but you might be able to raise our cap. Our hourly is right there. That's-
Yeah,
that's fair.
it's-
Yeah.
yeah, if you go down the beach, we do check on that occasionally to see where we're at. For a long time, we were the highest, but they still parked.
Another thing I wrote down was consider the sale of known properties. I know we have the little White House back here, there are other partial lots I'm led to believe around the city that might be able to be able to be sold and maybe tied in with that. Finding a real estate expert who, we talk about leveraging City Hall, but I think someone more familiar with the real estate business might give us some better concrete ideas as to who might be willing to use it, who would be a better group to market it to. We also talk about the marina down there and using storage. To me, that's kind of vague out there. It might be an idea to get someone who really knows property usage to come in and look and say, okay, you have these, you have this space, here are some ideas that we have seen in other cities, you might be able to leverage that, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, we just rent out City Hall, but we don't have a lot of space really. We get $15,000 a year approximately income, I think is what I saw when.
Yeah.
Seems we should be able to do better, but we're not really that well situated. We have one room. The rest is just empty cavern.
Right, and I will tell you, other cities, they have City Hall and stuff, and they rent some of the space, but they aren't, it isn't like everybody's breaking down their door to rent their place, I know Bel Air Rec Center, it rents for, a couple $100
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 hours. I don't know exactly what it is, but I have talked to a commercial realtor, and he's given me some estimates on if I sold this stuff.
Mhm.
But with the caveat that it depends what the city would allow if you sold it.
Sure. Right.
And I threw out a number for that lot to the city council, I think I said like probably 250, 300 maybe. And that's basically what he told me. He said, that house is not worth anything, the garage behind it, so it's $300,000 top.
Value.
Net, so, it's not conducive to, but the other thing you have to look at is, where do you go with
The stuff.
The equipment,
Equipment,
material.
right, where do you go with that?
Well, I think that's really for the council to look at. I'm trying to just come up with some ideas we can put in
And this
front of them.
building, he told me on the low side about 5 million, just for this building. He said if you could do something with that out there and this could be converted to, because basically what he was telling me for the most part was a developer might buy this, but they would buy it to tear it down and
Yeah.
put condos in here
Density, yeah.
because they want the density.
Mhm.
And when I told him that land out here was a Florida Communities Trust purchase,
Mhm.
that's not part of the equation at this point unless the city decides to go back and pay Florida Communities Trust for it, which I've got to do a little more research on that. So, going to the marina, there again, he gave me a number of 2.5 million. Could go up more depending on what the city would allow. You know, if it was, and at that point, he was talking about the submerged lands, which that's not real. The city may have title to it, but they don't have
Okay.
any authority to sell it because it came from the state. Trying to think of the name of the state section that it came, because this submerged land out here was given to us by the state. So there's, I'm guessing, some stipulation on that also.
But I'm not sure what role, based on the strategic plan, the marina plays in the quality of life and the value of homes. And I mean, the very few, I mean, I don't remember how many slips we had, what, 20 slips down there or
19.
whatever, 19, I mean, the value of the property, I mean, would the people who have boats there move out of Bel Air Beach because we sold the marina? Probably not. But anyway, it's a
No,
thought
it's
there
a
to
thought
look at.
process, but then you gotta buy something to put parking, or you don't get fishery nourishment. And then,
That's a value, that's a
Right.
good value.
Yeah, okay.
or you pay for it yourself, which is millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars?
What about,
Renourishment is not cheap.
How much parking lots, spaces, if we did sell that land, how many spaces?
70.
70, and we probably don't have anywhere else to do
You'd
it.
have to buy some other property.
You know these parks, they're donated by people that we can't redo anything else with, right?
Some of them are,
Some
but
of
the
them are, yeah.
majority of the parks have an outfall in them.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, the
Drainage
pipe.
outfall.
The pipe, yeah, you said
So
that last time, the pipes,
you're-
yeah.
Yep.
You know,
How- getting-
it's not a lot of value to it.
Getting
Yeah,
back to
gotcha.
the marina, if we need the parking lot, then we're kind of like stuck with what you have there. How about adding a gas pump there for the boats to fill up?
I guess you could do that,
you want to lease to somebody who carries on the liability?
yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't want that liability.
I'm not a gas fisherman, I thought that would be a good research to figure out, you know, think about it, cause self-serve. Just put a pump there, put a credit card in, and we do the money.
It wouldn't be worth it.
Why?
Only 20
Well,
boats
there's not
there.
enough people that would facilitate
I
the
disagree. Do you have a
cost
boat?
and the revenue that you'd incur. There's been
I
a
don't know.
discussion just on having a truck come by.
Yeah.
And could
Why do
we
you think it's
that,
not
which
worth
we
it though?
can't.
We live right there, one street over, and I'm thinking it would be a great asset to have the marina. We always have to go to
It's really
Clearwater.
interesting.
It's limited to the boats that are there currently. Not everyone can just pull up and pump, because.
From the water.
Can they? Or is there
No, you can
space?
take it to the.
Yeah, just like how Clearwater Beach does it. It would be a great thing. The boats just pull up, and I don't understand why we wouldn't do it, and we open it
Oh,
up
I
this
see
way.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Not from the
That's
thing.
interesting.
I know, and we can have, if it's successful, we can add another one.
The other
That's
issue,
something we can consider.
yes,
That'd be
but
nice.
the liability factor, again, she's suggesting a self-serve pump.
No, I'm suggesting we look into it. That an idea is a
Okay, but
self-serve.
yeah, but still, you're suggesting the thought of a self-serve pump, and we're looking also at the liability factor, and
We don't know if we
I
look into it.
I wouldn't want to see the city be liable if somebody screwed up,
I
or
think
there was
we
a
have to
spill
look-
or a fire.
Well, it's definitely something to look
Yeah, I
at.
think we
There's,
look
You
into
know.
this.
there's, for instance, you got above ground storage tanks and you've got.
Can you look into it?
Environmental.
Liability's too high, you scratch it. If we don't, if we do a study and figure out the money's not enough, we
Yeah,
scratch it.
I thought
Okay.
we were referencing 19 slips, a gas pump.
No.
I see.
Yeah. Then the other idea I had was by a little list here. This is a little far off, but think about it. Just kind of thinking.
It is very good.
Use the example of the landscapers in this community. Our street has one landscaper, and there's a plus to having one landscaper on the street, right?
Yeah.
You can negotiate one price, blah, 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 the things.
Yeah.
So we put up there, we talked to a landscaper and said, hey, Mr. Landscaper, how many homes are you doing now? And if we were able to give you 100 homes, you're gonna give us we want 10% off the top of what you make. And we are going to advertise you as a premier. We're not gonna force anybody to go there, but we'll get 10% off of what you make. And this can go on and on and on. We start with landscapers and see how profitable it is.
Where does that save the city? Because you and I as
We make
homeowners are
10% off of
paying.
what he makes.
It's not
Oh.
saying it's an
He's gonna give me a
annuity to the
kickback
city.
of
I got
10%
you.
at the end. And our guarantee to him is we give him 100 homes or whatever
Yeah.
we have.
Right,
I don't know if that could.
and you don't have blowers.
And I wouldn't even
every
mind
day.
managing that.
Certainly.
You don't have blowers around every day of the week.
No, it's,
Which would be an advantage. I'm just saying,
oh,
be quieter to
but
know that
everybody
my
has
street
a
was all done on
landscaper.
Wednesdays.
We might have 50
It's kind of
landscapers.
like you're selling, it's kind of like.
I do my own.
how-
And that, you don't have to
How
join
Raymond
us.
James
You don't
got
have to
their
join
name
us.
and-
Here's the
and
price,
they-
I don't
join
want,
us
I
or
don't
not.
want
they pay
somebody
a fee to
else's
put their brand out
grass.
there.
Got
You
it.
basically are getting
And
a
I'm just-
landscaper.
I know what you're saying.
I want to be the
I see.
authorized
There's a lot of people on the
landscaper
street
for
that
Brown
hire a
Lake.
No,
landscaper.
I
In
get
doing
that.
so,
And
they're
it's the
giving
volume
an
has all
annuity
going
of some
together, and if you
sort.
don't do a good business, now you're gonna lose
And if we're
100
gonna sell
homes.
naming
They're
rights
gonna
for
have an
different-
interest of doing a good
Okay.
job.
But I'm all for it.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know how that would work from a, I mean, we have a business registration fee that we collect, but landscapers don't fall into that.
So my old subdivision, we did this, I was in charge of the landscaping budget, and we had 1,000 homes in that landscaping, and we had 5 companies, and we got a kick off the top. It's hard to set up, but if someone's willing to take the initiative, you make money. And you get better quality of service, because if someone complains, let's say Sue doesn't like her property, and
Yeah, they're
obviously she,
jeopardizing that.
a lot,
that
yeah,
contract,
right.
Yeah, okay.
it's an
That's
idea.
good. Homeowners Association, or what was that?
It was a homeowners association, yeah. And then the third area is a walk of fame. So we advertise this to all the homeowners. Hey guys, we all live in a community that, you know, we don't have, we're trying to increase money. And if you have services you want to volunteer, in our old subdivision, we had a walk of fame. You had a brick and a pathway to go to the pool, but we could figure out where this walkway was. And then your name, Irulo family, platinum donor. Platinum meant you gave $1,000 of services or software. The company I work with, I could have given you $2,000 of those PCs for free.
Yeah.
We have so much resources in the community. I could have easily given you $2,000 of hardware.
Any skill set inventory for.
And I get my little name on a plaque. And people pie, they like that. They walk it down. Hey, you show your daughter, show your grandkids, so where's the walk of fame? Or you have a picture up on a whole area, and you take a family picture, you put it up there.
It's like commemorative bricks.
Yeah. So those are my 2 ideas,
Okay,
or 3 ideas.
good. I'll put those on the list. We had stormwater fees. Councilmember Shirley brought that up.
100,000 is what was the estimate. of stormwater.
Yeah, 90,000, right, $15 a month per home. I think is what we were, $50 a quarter, $200 a year.
I wrote down 120K.
Aren't you
No,
talking about
so
that
it-
tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
we're,
huge amount of money.
we're weighing that. Councilmember Shirley and I have spent a lot of time on that, and we brought it to the city council last month, a proposal,
Okay.
and it's on the work session we have tonight
Oh, we got a work
to
session.
decide if we're gonna move forward.
Okay, all right. So it's there. And then I think we talked about a little bit of kind of an opening, we talked about the millage rate. I think that's something that we need to delve into too. I think taxes.
I think it's kind of sacrificial, but something to talk about.
Yep.
I know that it's something that's pretty sensitive.
I understand
Oh,
that.
Sacrosanct would be the word.
Yeah.
And there may be other ways,
Not
but
sacrificial.
We sacrificed.
Yeah.
And we did talk about on the marina, looking at,
Yeah.
rental space for boat RV storage, trailer, boat and RV. So I guess we would just need to have someone look to see how does that impact the 70 parking spots, and then how much is available, and then how feasible would it be to charge, $150 a month for someone to park a trailer or an RV.
Yeah, Ron, we should look at it, okay? But I want to tell you that indiscreetly, I play golf with some people that live in Dan's Island and in the moorings.
Uh-huh.
And I mentioned, you know what, what would you think if the landscape changed at the marina? Heavens, no! So we're gonna get a big pushback if anything changes
Fancy
there.
wall and then-
Yeah,
We
yeah.
give their boat repair people a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, they're looking at the intercoastal and they don't want their view blocked and they don't.
We
Yeah,
give
no,
their-
I know.
We give their boat maintenance people a lot of parking tickets,
Yeah.
because they park in the
Uh-huh.
marina and don't pay. They try to put a sign in the dash that says, Dan's Island Repair Work.
Oh my gosh.
Go park over there.
That's funny.
Nice try, though. Nice try.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't want to
$3.
discourage it.
All I had to do was put $3 in the machine.
Cost them 35.
Bargain.
And the last thing I heard, and we talked about the last meeting somewhat in depth, and this whole idea of bonding out the capital improvements.
Mhm.
That may be on your work session tonight. I don't know how far along that
No, that's,
idea is, but.
I wanted to talk about that tonight too.
I think that's something we should have probably for the remainder of our time. Will probably get us to 600 to 1,800, but. And Ron gave us some great insight with his financial expertise as to how that might clear out mess and save us. I mean, the net savings would be probably $150,000 to $200,000 a year by getting that money and then just paying the interest on that bond. Would make budgeting, I think, a lot simpler. So, John, what do you?
I was gonna, yeah, thank you. According to the last meeting, we needed 3.8 mil to complete all of the stormwater improvements, to bring them up to standard. It was estimated that the income from a stormwater fee could be between 100 to 120K a year. What are we budgeting, just kind of ballpark, Lynn, on stormwater maintenance infrastructure right now? And we're,
maintenance is about 20 a year. And
20.
really, yeah, it's not the maintenance.
we're not really doing, but what are we doing, what are we
We're
budgeting for replacement?
Right.
Replacement, what are we,
No, replacement's a different number. Replacement is like this year's 400,000.
Yeah.
okay, that's
No, but
what
that's the replacement is the 3.8 million that was
Yeah.
discussed at the last,
Yeah.
okay.
that's what we need to do,
Correct.
but
Right.
And
what are
your
we
maintenance-
budgeting right now per year? 400K?
Well, this year's 400, last year it was 330. It's being based on whatever the project that flows in the next priority.
Right, okay. But yeah, I concur with the chair that, Ron's crunching the numbers
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago seemed to make a whole lot better sense to make that a recommendation to council, that we get convince the citizens a bond would save us money long-term. It would pay it, and then the stormwater fee, plus a little bit of the savings in the maintenance, or the replacement cost, would go into that line item for stormwater maintenance down the road, to be self-sufficient for repairs and everything.
Can you rehash those numbers for us, Ron, just off the notes you had from last
Yeah,
time? Generally,
no,
they
so-
took X amount of money over 10 years or 20 years.
3.8 million over 20 years, assuming a 3% rate,
Okay.
253,000 would be the annual debt service.
253.
But, I mean, this is doing a monthly debt service. Normally bonds are done with a one-time principal. So it might, 255, 260 might be the actual number.
At
Still
3%?
A couple dollars more, yeah.
Okay.
30-year money would be right at 200, which is what our current debt service is. So again, if we take the strategy where we pay off the existing loan, and you go to here, then we're same debt service. If the engineers can certify it's a 30-year value,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Because some of what we're doing is it's longevity repairs. It's not replacement. So it's
You're right.
do we have a useful life of 20 years or 30 years, whatever the engineer. But you can basically swap the debt, take care of that. And the key is that we need to do in this whole analysis is when a lender looks at to see what is our bonding capacity. So what dry powder do we have for future needs if need be, keeping the military where it is. The beauty is you can always increase the millage rate and then you increase your bonding capacity, what you can do. But I think what, part of the task here is we're trying to preserve, the beauty of Ballard Beach, and we're not a wild and crazy tax community.
Well, we still have streets flooding and things like that, and all this deferred maintenance. I mean, it seems to me that was just a priority. This job's got to get fixed, and to stretch it out year after year, and the costs go up and up and up and up. By the time we get 2 years down the road, everything's gone up 25%, and we're spending more money. So.
And hypothetically, if we convinced council that this is a good idea, they vote on it, we get it on the ballot, we can sell it, hopefully, to the city when it comes time for the
Well, I
election.
think what we're talking about is this doesn't require the city vote. It's a city council approval, but it's not a vote of the citizens, is what we talked about last time.
Oh, okay. That, and would improve the quality of life in one sense, because at the last council meeting, I recall 2 residents getting up that live down south of Gulf Boulevard here, complaining about, storm tide getting in their garages.
Sure.
And that water does not recede quickly.
Right.
It goes with the tide. And I know that Lynn and his people are busting their tails trying to get those check valves in. But if we can get this going, I think we'd get it done quicker and maybe a whole lot less.
I guess that's what, would it be cheaper if we accelerated the spend?
The spend?
Yeah, if it's a $3.8 million budget today, but that's spending it over the next 4 or 5 years, or 10
It would
years.
be cheaper.
Be cheap, I mean.
From 10 years from now, yeah, because the cost will increase.
So is that overall budget, if we spend it today, is it $3 million? Is there a real?
No, the number, those are current.
Okay, the 3.8 is based on current
Yeah,
cost.
yeah. So if you said you're gonna spread it over, because we updated those, I think it was in the spring, because we'd done it in 16, and then or late 17, I think it was. We updated we did a master stormwater plan, and then we updated those numbers.
I mean, hypothetically, going forward, the cost of living was 2.8% for 2020. Nobody has a crystal ball as to know what the COLA is going to be for 21. But that said, the cost of doing business goes up much, much higher than the COLA. Go to the grocery store. Look at your electric bills. The sheriff, it's all trickle down. So I see the sense. Not that I'm one for raising taxes or revenue, but I'm looking at long-term quality of life. I'm looking at long-term return on investment. So if we locked in at 3.8 and we got a contract to get all of this done, and that's just talking the storm sewers. I don't know if that would include the gutters and paving as part of that deal or not, or if that's separate.
Separate.
Okay. We're locking in and we're saving ourselves money down the road, because you literally every year you're looking at the cost of business going up. And right now rates are down, maybe to go down some more. So
but concrete and lumber and everything's up. So.
Yeah, I know.
So-
Tell me about it.
But
I'd signed a contract for a pool and they shoot it tomorrow.
Kelly signed it.
That's probably one of the biggest expenses right there, shooting that gunite.
reality is, though, if you had the go to do this bond issue today, you had the money tomorrow, and you had a contractor, how long would it take to do everything that's on this schedule? Roughly, I mean, your best.
You did everything? Year and a half.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Because
I thought it
the contractor that would bid it, because you would bid it as a
Right.
project,
Yeah,
you know, whatever the engineers that
Yes.
did the design work, they would give me a timeline. Sometimes I agree with them, sometimes I don't. but
Right.
They give you that, and they give you estimated cost, and
Okay.
you bid it out, and you tell the contractor you got some amount of time to do this,
Yep.
and
And it's fixed cost.
it's fixed cost.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's fixed cost.
Yeah,
You put some contingency in it, but
sure.
you don't let them have it in most cases.
Sometimes you throw an incentive in there to get it done on schedule or ahead of schedule.
Here's the budget, here's the money we have.
Yeah. Can you do it? When can you start?
Well, you have to give them, even when you're bidding, you gotta give them an estimate. They're gonna ask you for the engineer's estimate,
Oh, yeah.
Right.
you know? And some of them will come in lower, some of them will come in higher, some of them will come in crazy numbers.
Any other thoughts on either income, expenses that we want to consider tonight? I think we've covered a lot of ground. Again, I'm going to try to put all this, incorporate the ideas that we've had this evening, put them in some form of a document that I'll send to Patty to get out to you before the next meeting, and then we can, I think, move forward from there. Because
Can I make a
Any
suggestion?
other suggestions from the gallery?
Well, I think, yeah, we tried to include the dual, yeah, but thank you, Ron, for mentioning that. Did anything you want us to consider?
Collaboration at the last Florida League of Cities convention there was a lot of discussion about the underground project down in Longboat Key. And one of the things that they're doing is a lot of the small cities are collaborating on projects, and there are companies who specialize in bringing the small cities together and cost share and that kind of stuff. One of the things that Longboat Key is doing, and it's pretty interesting, is they are monetizing their accesses. Like the major roads that cut through whatever Gulf Boulevard is that goes through there are data collection companies coming to them saying, we want to put the monitors up there, so all the traffic that goes through, guess what? We're collecting their GPS data, who they are, where they're going, and that sort of thing. And there's just kind of out of the box kind of ways to monetize them.
That's good.
Maybe we need to look at some of our competitive edges like Gulf Boulevard, or just, I mean, we've got only 3 accesses that come in and out of this place, and they're major arteries, and there may be ways to monetize that stuff. I mean, it's just a stupid one, and I know nobody would be on board with it, but it just hit me, is a digital sign. You know, people would pay for advertising that, and I hate to go through that, but I'm going to throw it out there. But that's what I'm saying is we have 3 major arteries that come through here, and there may be ways of
Well, that's interesting. I mean,
monetizing.
I'd be curious if you could provide us a little bit more detail so we can do some research, because if there's some AI and just capture everybody who's going to Clearwater Beach through our town.
You have the contacts.
Yeah, a couple other things, that atomic spreadsheet I sent out to you, everybody should take a look at that, because
That's
many of
pretty
those fields that are populated, like I just did a quick sort on how many full-time employees are there. You can sort those cities, and the ones with maybe half a dozen to 10 employees may want to touch base with them and again benchmark. Hey, what are you guys investing in? How are you insuring your employees? How are you financing their benefits? That sort of thing. One last thing is great ideas here. I've been sitting in on the charter review. I've been sitting in on the board and the planning and zoning board. It's time for some cross-pollination between these committees. And what I would throw out there is maybe the heads of these committees need to be sitting in on each other's meetings to see what else is going on, because stormwater's coming up in some of these other meetings, the marina's coming up in some of these other meetings, and you know, it's time to share information and ideas so that we're not reinventing the wheel in certain places, and we're sharing information, maybe reducing some of the time. That's all I have.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple ideas, random ideas on things, and you guys are really coming up with quite a bit. I mean, there's some ideas I heard tonight that I never even had heard before, never even thought about, and I thought they were good and they're worth looking into. Please take a look at some surrounding cities and see what they do. We have, I think, one of the excellent examples right across this bridge here with Bel Air Bluffs. They run their city very well. They're very lean, very mean. And when I say mean, they're Galena mean from a cost point of view. They're nice people. Somebody told me they didn't like them. I'm like, they're nice people. I know 2 people on their council and their mayor, so they're very nice people. And if that's a problem, let me know and we can make the inroad in there. But take a look how they run it, and take a look at their budget and how they, the titles. I'm not so sure in this day and age that, and again, these ideas, it's unheard of in business that you get 100% of your insurance benefits, particularly insurance, dental, and eyeglasses paid. Those are very generous benefits. Maybe that is standard in government here, I don't know, but it's worth taking a look at now. I don't know when our survey was done, but last year, okay, so maybe it is current. But take a look and see where we're at. And again, we try and make ourselves the leader, so we can be the first one to change something if we have to. I don't know if it's worthwhile doing, and I don't know what was promised to the employees. So you might not be able to implement it with this group of employees. It might be something, as Lynn said, it gets, as new employees come in, and that could take you, 10, 20 years to cycle through. Do not underestimate the power of finding money for these things. It was nice that everybody up in Belle Isle paid for the undergrounding, and then I read that $8.9 million went to, is it Palm Harbor or Palm Beach or one of the communities for their undergrounding project, paid for by the state. So I don't know how they got that.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did to get that, but I know they got $8.9 million, and I know in Bel Air Beach, everybody paid for it out of their pocket. So if these other people can do it, then we should be able to do it. In terms of lobbying, one of my adversaries in a case is one of the biggest lobbyers in this state, and I no longer have an active case against that person, so I could easily make an inroad into that law firm. They're out of Sarasota or Fort Myers. They're very big. I was surprised when I found out that they were the big lobbyists, but they actually lobby on behalf of these cities to get money for these cities. So if we're thinking about doing a stormwater project or something like this, again, there may be money. You have to ask for it. I was just speaking to one of the mayors today, and he was telling me about all the money he was getting from the county. And I'm like, well, gee, we didn't ask for that money. Okay, if you don't ask, you don't get it. Okay, but sometimes if you ask, you might get it, or you might get some of it. So don't underestimate that possibility.
Okay.
I think this building is way underutilized. We've got 4 employees here at any given time. Remember, 2 employees are always in the field. So we've got Lynn, Renell, Kyle,
Patty.
and
Patty.
Patty. So we got 4 people in a 20,000 square foot building?
No, 9,000.
9,000, okay, that's a lot of space. That's a lot of space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we do 2 council meetings a month that require the full use of this building, of this side here. So, I think this can be looked at in terms, and I think that's what the planning's supposed to be doing, but I think we do, as Glenn said, the cross-pollinate here. There's potential here of something we might be able to do with this, and utilize an alternate site. So I just, I throw those ideas out to you in terms of, where there's ability, but I think there is money out there if we go look for it. It may not be easy, and nobody's going to tell you how to get it, but one thing we found at Florida League of Cities last year, Glenn and I, when we were up there's other mayors getting it, and they're similarly situated to us. I mean, it's not all the big Clearwaters and St. Petersburgs that are getting this kind of thing. There are smaller communities that can get this money. But yes, anytime you take money, there's usually some strings attached. So people in this city, if you're going to take that money, have to understand that for example, the parks, you have to open them up. So we have people that are a little bit sometimes parochial here, and I don't want to share them. Well, then you don't get the money. Okay, so
They're already being shared.
Yeah, exactly. There's some strings that are attached to these things. So, if we go in it open with our eyes open, then we can decide. It's too easy to tax and spend, and don't count on the mayor for a vote on that, because I ran against that. So that's the last resort as far as I'm concerned. But other people, I think, think differently. But we do have to address this stuff. But let's see what else we could, what we could possibly do. I think you guys are totally on the right direction.
Well, I think the next item we had was consensus on a way forward, and that's a good segue into that. We felt like, I'll just pick up on, Silvana's idea about the marina. I think, would the committee agree that I think we need to present the ideas in a, not a vague, but in a more general fashion for them to look at? Because before we go out and chase ideas I'm not sure that's really even our charter. We want to say, because the council may say, nope, we're not going to consider that.
Well, Rick, I would say don't rule out any option.
Right.
So if the marina has 5 options, we should list all 5 options.
Okay.
I think probably
Okay.
next meeting is let's take all these ideas that we've all thrown around today and then prioritize.
And
Right,
prioritize them, okay.
right.
And then find out whether there are areas, do we have the authority to make those phone calls, or is this stuff, at this point, we want to bring it to council, because maybe the council members are the ones who are supposed to be
Yeah,
making
because
those
that's
calls,
one
I'm not
thing they
sure.
asked is they wanted an update, so
Okay,
next council meeting is,
the 3rd, right?
Third, yeah. Third?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First Monday, it's the first Monday.
Third of February.
just one of them.
But you can make a presentation in a work session too. We
Okay.
have.
Right.
That might be the thing to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll be ready on the 3rd, but,
But the work session.
because we're gonna need, this committee's gonna need, I think we have another couple of meetings a week. I don't think it's gonna take us 120 days. I
I'm good.
think a couple more meetings will be
One
done.
more meeting, we can.
19th is a
The
Wednesday.
work session would be better.
Work session,
Yeah.
Just-
for city council, and then refocus.
Okay.
Yeah, the work session would be good, because you could put a placeholder in there now, and you'll have 2 to 3 weeks to prepare for
Yeah.
it.
19th.
19th is the Wednesday, then there was a holiday on the 17th.
19th of February is the work
That's the
session?
next work session, and the next council meeting is the 3rd.
Yeah.
And since we're looking at calendars, we need to set dates for, when do we want to meet again? And again, I will try to put this together in a usable document that we can use to guide our discussion. And Lynn, I'll send it to you for your chop to review. And then we can work from there. When do we want to try?
2 weeks from now? 2 weeks would be February 5th.
That works.
That's okay
No,
for
actually,
me.
I can't do February 5th. Can
No.
we do February 4th? February 4th?
What time does the president give the State of the Union? That's when he does it. I'm not missing that. That's February 4th.
Will he still be president?
Yes. I'm
Oh,
pretty
okay.
confident.
Probably not until 8 o'clock.
Probably not the way.
Yeah, it'll be evening.
So-
4 o'clock on the 4th.
Quarter,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
All right.
February 4th?
Should we do one more?
I think so. I agree.
Yeah.
What time, 4 o'clock?
And then from there, if whoever's able to attend the work session, that would be helpful. And I'm wondering if it wouldn't make, I know it's a quick turnaround, but if we're gonna present, we are gonna present to the work session, we may wanna see if we have room that next week.
When's the work
Does
section?
that
Did I hear
sound
right?
too-
Was it February 17th, the work section?
February
19th.
19th.
Would it be, so would we have to meet before the 19th?
Well, I think it depending, we might set a tentative date there, because we're
I
talking
think
about
if we're
going
gonna
to
pick a
work
date that we get the 10th.
week of the 10th.
Or is the day before the 17th not good?
17th is a holiday.
No, the 18th.
18th.
You're meeting the 18th.
No, 18th's fine.
Yeah, I'm thinking February 18th.
Okay, we put that down as tentative. We
Okay.
may not
18th.
need it, but can we put that down? Okay, so that's two weeks. Okay.
And just a reminder, if you can get the agenda to us by Thursday,
Yeah,
because
I got her, I
we
don't
don't,
need to do that. Sure, yeah, understood.
the Thursday before, so we can get it to,
You bet.
Get it to us instead of the day before.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, February 4 and 18. Good.
And 19th,
And
Oh, yeah,
19th
the
is a
19th
work
workshop.
session.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Yeah,
The work session's at 6?
yeah.
Okay. And our meetings are 4 to 6. Okay. I'm good.
But our
Anybody
session's the day before.
else?
Right. No,
Yeah, yeah, no, good.
Mhm.
We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Someone want a
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Yeah.